We're getting reaction in from President Trump just minutes ago on Truth Social. We just got this ruling from the appellate court deeming that most of his tariff policies are illegal. Now, the court is keeping them in place, and they're waiting for the Trump administration lawyers to respond. Trump says this: all tariffs are still in effect. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said our tariffs should be removed, but they know the United States of America will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, he says, it would be a total disaster for the country. It would make us financially weak, and we have to be strong, saying the USA will no longer tolerate enormous trade deficits and unfair tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers imposed by other countries, friend or foe, that undermine our manufacturers, farmers, and everyone else, saying if allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America, saying at the start of this Labor Day weekend, we should all remember that tariffs are the best tool to help our workers and support companies that produce great made-in-America products, saying for many years, tariffs were allowed to be used against us by our uncaring and unwise politicians, saying now with the help of the U.S. Supreme Court, we will use them to benefit of our nation and make America rich, strong, and powerful again, saying thank you for your attention to this matter. Do you agree with President Trump saying tariffs are the best tool to help our workers? Is that something that you agree with? Do you agree with this court's decision today?
Well, three things just off the top. Number one, I have generally been skeptical of executive power. I certainly was under Obama and Biden. And so I don't mind a court taking a hard look at what powers the president has. I want to read the decision, of course, before I decide. But President Trump is absolutely right that there are countries that have been treating us incredibly unfairly from a non-tariff trade barrier perspective. I'm not a fan of our country having high tariffs as a permanent part of the economic condition. And yet I understand what the president's trying to do. He's trying to use the threat of those tariffs to get a more level playing field. I understand exactly the target he's aiming at.
Do you agree, though, with the rationale he's using on an emergency basis with regard to national security, that that's why the tariffs should be in place? Is that a just and rationale that you would support, that is right for this sweeping tariff policy?
I have, over the last 6 months, been pretty deferential to the White House on this question.
Okay.
I wanted to give them an opportunity legally to prosecute their case, but I want to read the decision from the court. Now, listen, if it's a lousy decision, the administration's going to appeal it, and it'll all at some point settle out in the mix. Yeah. But I've been willing to give the White House an opportunity, the president an opportunity to push their plan. But once I read the decision, I think I'll have more of an understanding of where was the court coming from.
All right, sir, while we have you, I want to talk about some personnel moves within some agencies and departments within the federal government, and just kind of touch on something you just mentioned, that you are, frankly, skeptical of executive power. I want to talk about executive power being wielded right now at the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. That right there is Lisa Cook. She's on the Board of Governors. The president fired her. She's vowing to keep her job there. She is countersued. Does the president have authority to fire members of the Fed board?
Well, at some point, we're going to have the courts decide that. And I think the most important thing for the administration, and frankly, for all of us, is to make sure that when we get a final court decision, that everybody honors that. America is a nation where the rule of law has got to be a primary principle that governs how we govern this country. And so I'm going to wait for a final court decision. And then once we have that court decision, whether it's the Supreme Court or some lower court, I'm going to support that decision.
Do you worry that, whether the decision comes down, whatever it may be, that the president kind of mingling into the independence of setting monetary policy at the Federal Reserve, that this will be kind of tinged with politics going forward? Do you worry about the Fed's independence in the wake of all this?
I do like the idea of an independent Fed. That being said, I think some of the pearl-clutching concerns about the president's moves have been a little overwrought. You look at the markets have not expressed high levels of concern about what's gone on yet. And so I think we need to let this play out a bit.
Okay. Lastly, while we have you back out there to Washington, as you know, National Guard troops, they're on the streets of Washington, D.C. They have had an enhanced presence there, especially with regard to, deterring criminals, and they'll be there for about 30 days' time. Now, the president has the authority to go to Congress to seek an extension to keep them there. Is that something you would support after that 30-day period? Do National Guard troops still need to be on the streets of the Capitol?
Well, that's a question based in both fact and law. I'm a big fan of the Constitution. And of course, the Constitution does give Congress and the president much more leeway over the management of Washington, D.C. than any other city in America. So I do begin from a position of saying, hey, if the president is making a request, it should be given a full and thorough review from Congress. And listen, if it's a close call, the executive branch should have that flexibility. But let's figure out where we're at in the end of the 30 days. Let's figure out what crime numbers look like and whether or not we think that military presence has contributed to a safe community.
And just lastly, would you support extending the approach to other cities, blue cities and red cities alike, where the crime rate's pretty high?
I think that becomes legally more complex. I'm certainly willing to take a look at the rationale that the administration would have. In general, I think crime policing in this country, you look to the local government first. Now, if the local government resources get overwhelmed, then you look to the state government. If local and state resources are overwhelmed and they make a request to the federal government, then I do think a federal response is wholly appropriate. If you don't have that request from state and local authorities, then I think you need to back up and do a serious analysis about whether or not the Constitution envisions that kind of federal role.
And just back to stock trading and the ban that you guys have put in place there on the floor. What else do we need to know about it? Are you confident it has the support for President Trump to sign it into law?
I don't have a good sense of where either the Senate or the White House is. We're working right now on just getting it through the House, and I would say those efforts are bearing quite a little bit of fruit. I think there was some initial resistance on both sides of the aisle about, listen, is this something we really need to do? Do we need to take away this freedom from members of Congress? But I would tell you, 70% of the time, after I get done talking to one of my colleagues, lobbying them on this topic, they see the light and they've been willing to come aboard.
Yeah, because last Congress, there was momentum, and then it seemed to fizzle. This Congress, it does seem like the momentum is on your side, so we'll just have to watch it. Congressman Johnson, thanks for your time. Have a good Labor Day weekend.
Thank you. You too.